Hey there, bibliophiles and those raising bibliophiles. Thank you for joining me today for an honest book review from a fellow mom seeking great books for children to read. Today's book review is Book 3 in the Journey to Impossible Places series. So, Book 3 of the Journey to Impossible Places series is known as Redemption. And in this book, this is the conclusion of the 3-part fantasy series by Ted Dekker and H.R. Hutzel. Continuing the story where book 2 left off, we immediately continue, so there's no lapse in time. Charlie's on his way to the third and final stronghold to uncover the last key in an attempt to free Lumina from the darkness that enshrouds it. As you can gather from the title, the book is filled with redemption for all the characters and the freeing of Lumina. But the road there is not easy. As Charles faces the last stronghold, that of anger, he must learn to forgive Michael for all the pain and hurt he's caused him. And if you have read book 1 and 2, you can certainly understand everything that was involved and the hurt and the pain that Michael inflicted on Charles. And so he needs to see Michael for who he truly is, a person of dignity with a capacity for light, just as Charles does himself. And so that's a huge part of the story, is really being able to look at your enemy or to look at someone and realize that they are a valued member of God's kingdom and that they have dignity and worth. So in an unlikely situation, Charles actually surrenders to Michael. And Michael is sort of taken aback. He's not sure what to do with that. And then Michael takes his mother as a prisoner. So she's presented in this story. I'm not going to go into all the details, but she shows up. And so Michael takes Charlie, and his mother back to the Sovereign's castle, which is who their father is. And their father's name is Julian. So Julian ends up commanding that his wife and both his sons be hanged the following day. And so Michael has been seeking his father's affections this entire time. And so he's really like, that is what makes him sort of change and shift, is the fact that he realizes that his father's been using him this entire time and had no intention of actually making him an heir. And so Michael, as you can imagine, thinking that he was an orphan all this time, like wanting that affection and love from a father. So it's the command ultimately that like I said, makes Michael shift. And it actually leads him to making a decision to save Charlie. And so that's a huge shift in the story. We go from, for the first 2 books, like total intentions of killing Charlie to now actually saving his life. Both of them then work together to save Lumina from the darkness, but again, it doesn't happen super easily. There is a final temptation and ultimately a sacrifice. Unfortunately, the sacrifice isn't permanent, but I'll leave you to read to find out exactly what that is. The boys are ultimately successful, and they are reconciled to one another and their parents at the end of the story. They also face an even bigger choice, though, is that they decide to return to their friends on the island. So if you remember, anything that happens on the island is also, or happening in Lumina, is also sort of happening on the island. So this darkness that had been seeping and taking over their hearts and their souls has been seeping into the children on the island. And so it's gotten increasingly more dangerous. So if you remember in book 2, we ended with Maxine being killed. And so here we are in book 3, and things are getting even more dangerous between Sarah and Tyler. Ultimately, the novel does end with their return and their reconciliation and revelations between the characters. Major themes in this series is that of strongholds and the need to overcome them. And there's also the recognition that not everybody suffers from the same types of strongholds and struggles. And so that's sort of an element of the story that's a great conversation for families. Forgiveness is also a major theme, along with the recognition that harming others also harms yourself. So to love your enemies, again, because they're also made in the image of God. Another key quote and theme in the novel is that light is never extinguished. It can only be hidden, but it's never gone. So that really signifies that there's always hope at redemption and change. And so, again, that's another driving force throughout the entire series, like to love your enemies, do not hate others. Hate is akin to murder, but also this idea of hope, that there's always hope, and that hope should be shared. Overall, I Really series. It's really fast paced. It's engaging. If you have a reluctant reader, they may enjoy this series. It's really short. It's fast paced. Having that 3-part series. At first, I was kind of wondering, like, why not put all of this in one novel? Why break it up? But I think for readers who might be more reluctant, having that broken up may help give a sense of accomplishment and knowing that, like, you finished a book and then you moved on to the next one, especially the next one that just picks up right exactly where you left off. So I think it was actually a really smart strategy on the authors to do it that way, especially given their target audience. So if you're looking for a fantasy read, those are sometimes hard to come by, especially with biblical themes. This is definitely a series you should check out.